you can't create an emotional connection with your customers, with your clients, and with your team, you're going to lose them. I'll never forget my first day at work at the Green Hills Grill. I was 1994. I was the University of Southern Mississippi's newest business school graduate. I went home to my parents' house in Auburn, Alabama. I walked into their bedroom and I spoke the words that all parents long to hear from their new college graduate. I said, "Mother, Father, I'm moving to Nashville to be a star." That was not the conversation they had planned. That was not the conversation they had prayed for. That was certainly not the conversation they had paid for. And so after a long discussion, my dad realized I was serious about turning my passion into a profession. And he said, "Son, I will support you in spirit. Get a job." So I packed my car, headed up Interstate 65, and I hit Nashville, Tennessee. It wasn't long before I got a job at the Green Hills Grill. Now, I'll never forget my first day at work. I was sitting in the back room taking a menu test with 3 other brand new servers. The general manager, Brian, walked in. He looked at us, spoke 3 words, and then he walked out. He didn't say, "Don't be late." He didn't say, "Don't drop dishes." He simply said, "Remember their names." You see, the Green Hills Grill was one of the most successful restaurants in Nashville. 80% of the time, there was a line out the door. They did no advertising. How in the world could a restaurant be so successful, people waiting to get in line, and do no advertising? Great food. That must be it. Well, sure, the food was good. Food was great even. But lots of restaurants have great food and people don't stand in line. Great service. It's fair, but when's the last time you stood in line for great service? No, the secret to the success of that restaurant, in my opinion, came down to one person. Her name is Mrs. Stevens. Mrs. Stevens was a little old woman who would come into that restaurant every single day at 4 p.m. She'd sit at the same table, in the same chair, and order the exact same thing. Hot fudge brownie, ice cream on the side, cup of black decaf coffee. Then she'd smoke her cigarette. Every day she'd come in at 4 o'clock, sit at the same table, the same chair, order the exact same thing. Hot fudge brownie, ice cream on the side, black decaf coffee. Now we got to know Mrs. Stevens because we would always stop by and chat with her. And one day it was 4 o'clock. I looked up at the hostess stand and there she was. I realized I was serving her that day, and so I had her coffee waiting on her when she sat down. I put her brownie order in. And after a while, I stopped back by to check on her, and I said, "You know, Mrs. Stevens, we sure enjoy seeing you in here every day. My word, you must love brownies to come back every single day." And she looked up at me, and she put her fork down, and she said, "Patrick, I don't come here for the brownie. I can get a brownie anywhere." She said, "I come here because of you. And I come here because of Doug and Bridget and Gail and Jay and Steve." She began to point out all the servers on the floor that day by name because she knew all of us as well. And that's when her eyes misted over. And she said, "Y'all make me feel so special." Who are your Mrs. Stevens? Who are the people who rely on you to get things done? Who are your customers? Who are your clients? Who are the people you report to? But more importantly, what do you do in their minds to become what my 5-year-old daughter coined as being rememberable? What are you doing to become rememberable in their minds? Rememberability is that intangible quality that makes your customers, that makes your team members say, "Wow." That's oftentimes the difference between good and great, that intangible quality. What we're going to do today is I'm going to talk about 3 mindsets to creating rememberability in the minds of your customers, in the minds of your team. And we're going to talk a little bit how to become more strategic, how to become more innovative, and how to keep your team in tune. Now, there are a few songs throughout American history, American pop culture, that have stuck. Songs that were written, 40 years ago. Can we hear the guitar? Songs that were written decades ago, but we still sing them every so often, like Bye, bye, Miss American Pie. Drove my Chevy to the levee, but the levee was dry. Them good old boys are drinking whiskey and rye, singing, this'll be the day that I... Thank you. Or wasting away again in Margaritaville, searching for my lost shaker of salt. Thank you. Some people claim that there's a woman to blame, but I know it's my own dang fault. Sweet home Alabama, where the skies are so blue. Now, you all know these songs. They were written years ago, but somewhere in the vast recesses of this country, one of those songs is playing, and there is a drunk man leaning against the wall saying, "Turn it up." Am I right? I think I met him a minute ago back there. No, these songs have stood the test of time. They are rememberable. Why? It's because they make us feel good, or at least remind us of a time when we felt good. These songs are what we call rememberable. Now, there are three mindsets to creating rememberability. And I think these three mindsets will help you become more strategic. They will help you become more innovative. Now, the first one is what I like to call the Cheers mentality. How many of you have watched the show Cheers? You want to be where people see troubles are all the same. You want to go where everybody knows your name. Is there a better feeling in the world than to walk into a room, instantly everyone turns around and smiles because they are genuinely glad that you're there? That's why Norm went to Cheers. That's why Cliff Clavin hung out at Cheers. It's because people made them feel good. My dry cleaners has the Cheers mentality. McPherson Cleaners. I lived in Nashville for 10 years. I moved to Burlington, North Carolina. It's a different story. I moved to let me just say, there was a woman involved and I married her. Moved to Burlington, North Carolina over 10 years ago, and I have been doing business with McPherson's Cleaners ever since. The other day I was taking a load of laundry to the cleaners, and I counted 3 other dry cleaners in between my front door and McPherson's. And I started thinking about it. Why am I using McPherson's? It's not as geographically convenient. It's not the cheapest. And then I realized there are 3 reasons that I choose McPherson's Cleaners. 1, they know my name. I pull up to that drive-in, there's Miss Betty. Patrick, oh, it's so good to see you. How's Meredith doing? Did Robert score a goal in his soccer game last weekend? Is Jack driving you crazy yet? Answer yes to all. She knows me. She also knows that I like my shirts with no starch on hangers. Don't have to tell her every time I pull up. And sometimes I forget the pickup slip. Has anybody forgotten the pickup slip before? How can we complete this transaction without a pickup slip? Oh my goodness! It's okay. They know me. They got it covered. They're not so bound by process that they overlook common sense. McPherson's Cleaners has the Cheers mentality. Loyalty, building loyalty among your team, among your clients, is not about service. It's about hospitality. Danny Myers, the New York restaurateur and author of the best-selling book Set the Table says that service is the technical delivery of a product. Hospitality is the way the delivery of that product makes the recipient feel. Now, we are more connected these days to our technology, it seems, than to other people. Has anybody found that to be the case? I had my family out to dinner not long ago. My wife and I like to take our kids out to dinner at least once a month to remind them what a fork is. And to also remind them that meals don't always come in bags. And we were sitting there at the table, and this little woman came up to me and she said, "I just want to compliment you on your children." I said, "Oh my gosh, tell me, what did they do?" She goes, "I was noticing how they were just sitting there so quietly with their hands in their laps, with their heads bowed." I didn't have the heart to tell her they're playing their iPods underneath the table. You know what I'm talking about. No, sometimes technology is a great thing. It helps us do our jobs better, more efficiently, but it can also get in the way. I was driving down Church Street, Burlington, North Carolina, not long ago. I look over, there's a teenager driving next to me. Guess what he's doing? He's texting. I got so angry at him. Older I get, the more angry I get at teenagers, it seems. I got so angry, I got his attention. He's driving, I look at him, he looked at me, and I gave him the meanest look I could. Then I went back to checking my email on my iPhone. A little more hypocritical. You know, things bother me that never used to bother me before. I'll tell you, my mother is not very responsive to changes in technology. God love her. She lives in Alabama. And I recently had to teach her how to send a text message. Now, it's not that she couldn't send the text message. She just refused to. "Don't you send me a text. You want to talk to me, you pick up the phone and you call me." But finally she gave in, and I taught her how to send a text message. Now I'll get texts randomly during the day. "What you doing?" Yeah. Social media, that's a big part of our world now. How many of you have a Facebook account? You're active on social media? Of course. It helps us stay connected, but it also brings up a new problem, which are Facebook stalkers. "I don't even know your name. We've never said hello, but you tag my pictures and you like my Facebook post. Oh, we're not friends at all. Get off my Facebook wall, 'cause you don't know me. You became my Facebook friend. You endorsed me on LinkedIn. You instant message me, comment about my kids. Not sure how this came about, but man, you creep me out, 'cause you don't know me." We must share a Facebook friend. Maybe we met in grade school years ago. Now you lurk around my Instagram and flood my wall with inspirational quotes. You retweet my tweets. You repin my pins. I've unfriended you, but still you find your way back in. Oh, please stop poking me. I freaking guarantee you don't know me. You know, I tell you, I had to teach my mother the difference between a butt dial and a booty call. Do you know how horrifying it is to hear your mama say to her best friend, "I booty called my son twice last week"? You know, as I get older, I get a little less tolerant of things that never used to bother me before, like neighborhood children cutting across my yard. People in airports who stand still on moving sidewalks. People on Facebook who don't know the difference between Y-O-U-R and Y-O-U''re. Thank you. Bad customer service. Oh, that's the one that really fires me up. I'm on hold again. I can't believe that I'm on hold again. Fourth time that I've been transferred to the wrong extension. Can't believe that I'm on hold again. I'm on hold again with Muzak versions of hit songs from Barbra Streisand. Playing words with friends, and when I finally get a voice on the other end, it's Bob from Pakistan. I'm on hold again. I can't believe that I'm on hold again. And voicemail hell that doesn't ever seem to end. Can't believe that I'm on hold again. Thank you very much. The first mentality is the Cheers mentality. The second mentality is the extra inch mentality. How many of you grew up mowing yards as a child? How many of you did it because you enjoy the smell of fresh cut grass and the heat? Of course not. There's probably somebody special in your life who said, go mow the grass. I mowed the grass when I was 12 years old, mowed almost every yard in my neighborhood. I charged $10 for a small yard, $15 for a big one. Judge Nix had the biggest yard in our neighborhood. Now, had I known it would take 6.5 hours to mow, I probably would have charged him a bit more than $15, but he was a lawyer before he was a judge, and he won that negotiation. But here I was, 12 years old, every other Saturday, spring through fall, mowing Judge Nix's yard, up one row, down the other. Had a self-propelled lawnmower back then, meaning I propelled it myself. And all day, I would be mowing that yard in the 95-degree Alabama heat and humidity. I remember one afternoon I'd been mowing all day long. I was finally coming to the end of the row, and I could already feel the sensation of my hands letting go of the mower for the day. And I finally got to the end, and I turned it off, and I'm heading back across the yard to the curb where my father was going to come pick me up. And as I'm walking back across that yard, I look over my shoulder, and I see a row of shrubs that Judge Nix had planted. And I forgot that behind those shrubs was a patch of grass, strip of grass, not very long, not very wide, but I'd forgotten to mow it. I thought to myself, I need to go back and cut that grass. But then another part of me said, nope, I'm done. I'm tired. No one's going to notice that. How many of you have somebody on your team who has that attitude? Not my job. I kept pushing the mower to the curb, looked back over my shoulder. I knew I should go back and cut it, but I was done. So I sat down on the curb. Judge Nix came out, handed me a check for $15. And after a while, my father showed up. He came over to me, started walking around the yard, inspecting my work. I stood there on the side of the yard as I watched him walk towards those shrubs. He looked behind the shrubs, saw that I didn't mow it, gave me one of these. How many of y'all seen one of these? Yeah, it does not mean come over here, let me tell you what a great job you've done. It means you in trouble, Jack. I walked over there. He said, son, you've missed a spot. I said, Daddy, I'm tired. He said, I don't care. You're not finished. I said, Daddy, no one's going to notice that. You can't see it from the street. He said, son, what do I always tell you? Don't ever do a job unless you're willing to sign your name to it. Are you willing to sign your name to this job? He said, all right, let's go. So we walked across the yard together. I got back in the truck. But then my dad grabbed the mower. He pulled it out, pushed it across the yard, took about 2 minutes, and he cut the grass himself. He got back over to me. He said, son, has Judge Nix paid you? I said, oh, yes, sir, $15. He said, that's so good. Now go give it back. I said, say what? He said, give it back, boy. You don't get paid for incomplete work. I've been mowing that grass for 6.5 hours in the 95-degree Alabama heat and humidity. And now I got to give the check back. I couldn't understand it. I was so upset with my father, I wouldn't talk to him for a week. He didn't care. Wish my kids wouldn't talk to me for a week sometime. People tell me, how can you stand to be on the road so much away from your kids? It ain't that hard. First thing I do in hotels is get in the bed and do snow angels. But I couldn't understand why he would make me give that check back. Until 25 years later, I moved to Burlington, North Carolina, bought a house. It was a new house to us, so we had to do some work on it. Knocked out a wall, opened up space, put down beautiful hardwood floors downstairs. Exotic hardwood, said so right on the box. Painted the entire house. Discovered why they call it faux finish. You're going to paint it 4 times before you finish when you're married to a woman like I am. But no, I'm painting the little half bath downstairs one Saturday. I had stripped the wallpaper, sanded the walls, primed it, painted it, and I was done. I finally put my brushes away. I came back in to inspect my work, and as I'm staring around that house, the bathroom, I look back behind the toilet. If you really look back behind the toilet, you would have noticed a little patch of wall about that big that I'd missed. And I thought to myself, no one's going to notice that. But then all of a sudden I remembered handing that check back to Judge Nix 25 years earlier, and all of a sudden the lesson that my father was teaching me became very clear. We've all heard the phrase, go the extra. Yeah, that ain't it. It's the extra inch. It's that extra inch. Races aren't won by miles. Races are oftentimes won by inches. The difference between good and great is oftentimes measured in inches. The difference between PMPs is oftentimes measured not by what you deliver, but the margin by which you exceed expectations. The extra inch mentality. What I'd like for you to do, the call to action that I would like to extend to you is to, when you get back to your place of employment, I want you to gather your team around you. And I want you to ask them, how can we be more strategic? How can we be more innovative? No answer is too small, and I guarantee you, as the suggestions pile up, you will have in your hands a transformational experience. You know, I thought I knew about the extra inch until I got married and had kids. And then my world changed. How many of you, by a show of hands, have children? Oh, that's good. I've got 3 of them at home. And I discovered a long time ago that for us, 3 was our number. That's the number of children my wife and I wanted to have. And I discovered that a lot of people, when they get married, have a number in mind. Some just want 1, some 2, some 10. I don't know those people. But 3 was our number, and I can tell you now, unequivocally, we are done. My wife said, you want more kids? Do it with your next wife. This shop is closed. I knew she was serious, too. For 6 months after our 3rd child was born, we'd lay in bed at night watching television. I'd look over at my wife. I'd give her that smile. You know that smile, don't you? It was all of a sudden as if I was lying in bed with Flipper. All I'd hear is, We've got 3 wonderful children. I've got Jack. He's 13 years old. He's my stepson, or as I like to call him, my bonus child. We have pet names for each other. I call him Jackaroo. He calls me, you're not my real dad. You can't tell me what to do. He's in the 8th grade. Last year, my wife came in. She's got a bit of a panic in her voice, and she said, we got a problem. I said, what's the problem? She said, Jack's taking sex education this semester. I said, really? She said, yeah, and I hear it's pretty graphic. It's going to scare him to death. You got to have the talk. I said, don't worry, I've been preparing for this. She goes, do you want me to be there? I said, nope, I got this. When are you going to do it? On the way to school. Between the time we drop our youngest kids off at elementary school and take Jack to middle school, I've got 11 minutes, and I can have the talk in 11 minutes. So I dropped the kids off. I'm heading over to Turntine Elementary School. Jack's next to me. I said, so Jack, understand you're taking sex education. What of it? I said, well, Jack, we need to talk about a few things. I said, son, sometimes when a man and a woman, Jack, there comes a time, I got nothing. I froze. I panicked. He looked up at me and said, if you got questions, just ask. Of course, then there's Robert. Robert's my middle child. He's my little athlete. He's also my sensitive child. He's the one who calls me into his bed every night before he goes to sleep. He says, lay with me, Daddy. And I put my head right down next to his on the pillow. I rub his chest, and I whisper the same words over and over into his ear. Public university. I think that sensitivity started, though, when he was 2, because I bought him one of those little plastic lawnmowers. You know the ones I'm talking about? He pushed them, they make noise, they make bubbles. His favorite thing in the world was to follow right behind me as I was out in the yard, going out to pay the lawn man. It was, but then there's Meredith. Oh, she's my little 6-year-old. She's going to give me the trouble. I already know she is. She's had me right wrapped around her finger since day one. We have this little tradition that we used to do where she would come up to me and she'd say, Daddy, let us kiss as if we were from France. And then we go, ha, ha, ha. And it was so cute until I got a call from her kindergarten teacher, Mrs. Sapp. Meredith's going around telling all her little friends that she's French kissing her daddy. I used to be quite the rounder, till that blessed day that I found her. A wedding ring and a kiss and a short honeymoon. 60 days and the stick had turned blue. She told me it could take up to a year. She was wrong. Now my eyes are droopy and I'm cleaning up poopy and sleep is a distant memory. Can't play golf no more, buying Huggies at the store, put formula in my coffee. Now I love my wife and I love my life. There's nothing different I would do. But now I'd give $1 million for a day without hollers and a peaceful visit to the bathroom. Used to be so debonair, walking tall without a care. Never had a single hair out of place. But now I'm singing wiggle songs, warming bottles all night long, wiping baby puke off of my face. My wife and my boys fill me up with so much joy. Could not love them anymore. But now I think there'll come a time when I surely lose my mind if I see another purple dinosaur. We used to go to dinner and a show, candlelight and Merlot, then some smooching on the couch by the fire. Now it's chicken fingers, mac and cheese, kissing boo-boos on skin knees, peanuts out of nostrils with the needle nose pliers. I'm no longer in fashion, but brother, I got passion. Should write about us in Time magazine. Call it One Day in the Life of a Husband and a Wife in the All-American Family. Call it One Day in the Life of a Husband and a Wife in the All-American Family. Thank you very much. Has anybody ever gone into a project, gone into a circumstance where they had these grand expectations of the way things were supposed to be, and it turned out completely different than you planned for? Similar experience, my first trip to Starbucks. How many Starbucks coffee drinkers do we have in the room? Of course, most people are these days. Most people are immune to $4 coffee. My brother lives in Charlotte. He is single. He laughs at me because I live with my wife and 3 kids and a dog in Burlington. He says there are 2 reasons I wouldn't live in Burlington as a single man. No P.F. Chang's. And until recently, no Starbucks. But imagine my excitement when I saw the headline, bright as day in the Saturday morning newspaper, Starbucks comes to Alamance County. Man, I got so excited. I called my brother up. I said, hey, Bubba, guess what? Yeah, we getting a Starbucks. What's that? Well, what do you mean I'm not ready for Starbucks? He told me, he said, you're not ready, son. You buy your coffee from a gas station. And that was true, but I was ready to become a Starbucks coffee drinker. I had avoided $4 coffee my whole time in Nashville. I made hundreds of dollars as a songwriter, by the way. So imagine my excitement when I'm driving down Huffman Mill Road, look over at the old SunTrust Bank building, and there it was, grand opening Starbucks. I got so excited, I pulled my minivan into the parking lot. I got out and I took the stairs 2 at a time. I ripped that door open and I found myself standing in a line that extended all the way to the door. I stepped in line. Now I started to feel a little bit out of place because I was dressed in my blue jeans and ball cap, which is the way I dress when I'm not on the road. And I was surrounded by professionals, intellectuals, Elon University students. But I knew that that uncomfortable feeling would disappear with that first cup of Starbucks coffee. I get up to the counter and I notice the young man behind the counter. Hard to miss. He was leaned up against the counter. Yo, welcome to Starbucks. May I take your order, please? I said, well, I don't know, but I'm sure going to enjoy watching you try. I said, give me a cup of Starbucks coffee. He rolled his eyes, as some of you just did. He said, what kind? I said, well, regular. He rolled his eyes again, pointed to a menu board above his head. He said, no, what kind? I saw a menu board filled with words like cappuccino, frappuccino, macchiato, late. Latte, I get it now, thank you. I'd seen some of these words before, but I really didn't know exactly what they were, how they pertained to my order. I didn't know the vocabulary, so I began to grow uncomfortable. Heard a foot tapping behind me. Turned around, little bitty dude, round glasses, goatee, one of those intellectuals. Now what I wanted to do is pat him on the head, say it'll be okay, little buddy, but I was embarrassed. I was out of my comfort zone. So I just turned back to the dude, the rude, crude dude with a major tude, and I said, give me a plain cup of coffee. He rolled his eyes again, handed me a cup, and he pointed to a lonely urn on the other side of the room. I call it the loser urn. Charged me $2.97. I went back to my office sipping on that coffee, thinking it doesn't taste any better than the coffee that I bought at Exxon. Went back to Starbucks the next day, not going to let them beat me, but this time I read the menu board in advance as I stood in line. I created an order. I got up to the counter. Yo, welcome to Starbucks. May I take your order, please? I said, oh, yeah. Give me a cappuccino. He said, tall, grande, or venti, skinny or regular, foam or no foam. I said, say what? I mean, I know what tall is. I can figure out grande. We have Taco Bell there in Burlington, but venti's the one that had me stumped. I thought tall was tall, not at Starbucks. At Starbucks, tall is short. I know what skinny is. Got a couple definitions for regular. Had no idea what they had to do with my coffee. Let's talk about foam for a second. I'm a professional speaker. I get around. I've been to Myrtle Beach. I've walked along that beach and I've seen foam. Never thought about eating it. I'm right back where I was the day before. I said, just give me a plain cup of coffee. Back in my office sipping on that coffee. Now I'm angry. This was not working out the way I thought it was. But see, I, like you, have heard the definition of insanity is a man who tries the same thing over and over again expecting what? Different results. Yeah, that was my definition of insanity. Until I realized how much time people are willing to watch swamp people. Short it! 4 hours. The plot doesn't change, guys. I went back to Starbucks the next day, but this time I didn't get in line. I sat down. I listened. I listened to the experienced coffee drinkers order. Sometimes we all know that certifications, education's important, but sometimes the experience of others is the best teacher. I sat down, I listened to the experienced coffee drinkers, the intellectuals, the professionals, the soccer moms. I made mental notes of the vocabulary and syntax, the meter and juxtaposition of phrasing. Created this order in my head that I felt was poetic. I got in line, got up to the counter. Yo, welcome to Starbucks. May I take your order, please? I said, oh, yeah. But I quickly discovered I've been listening to the wrong people. I've been listening to people on diets. I've been listening to joggers, health enthusiasts. I said, give me a double skinny. Double decaf latte. No fat, no whip, no foam. He said, you want soy? Well, no. He said, is that all? I said, dude, I'm just getting started. I want you to put that in a tall cup with a short straw. Make it extra hot. Give me one of those cute little cardboard cup holders so I don't burn my fingers. He said, is that all? I said, no way. In addition to my double skinny, double decaf latte, no fat, no whip, no foam, no soy, tall cup, short straw, extra hot with cute little cardboard cup holder. I just gotta have a biscotti. He gave me a cup of hot skim milk and a cookie tasted just like a doggy biscuit. Charged me $7.36. My brother was right, I ain't ready for Starbucks. I'm not sure I ever will be. But imagine my excitement when Burlington, North Carolina was getting a Hooters. I'm not even sure they serve coffee in Hooters. That guy behind the counter has what I call a point the way mentality. Point the way mentality. His job was defined by the tasks he performed. He was unwilling to step out a half an inch beyond what his requirements were to make my experience easier. If you want to create distinction among the project managers in this room, within your company, within the marketplace, you have to have a lead the way mentality. Become an invaluable resource to the people you serve, and there is no replacement for you. As I close today, I want to reference back to that little restaurant that I mentioned at the beginning of this speech, the Green Hills Grill. You know, the Green Hills Grill, one thing that was instilled in us as servers was you're not serving numbers. The people we served were not a 4-top or a 2-top or a party of 12. They certainly were not a tip at the bottom of a check. They were people. And we were people serving people. I realize what you do is far more complex than serving hamburgers. But regardless of what you provide, the tasks you perform, we're all just people serving people. I am not a number. I'm a person. I am not a number. I'm real. I have joy and hopes and sadness. I'm not a number. I feel. I'm not the cancer in room 311 or the diabetic in 402. I'm not the 4-top in the atrium or the quaint 2.5-bath 3-bedroom. I'm not the ADHD on the red hall, the low test score on the blue. I am not a number. I'm a person just like you. I'm not a half percentage point or a margin call, the sum of pounds read on a scale. I'm not row 8, seat 32. Or the commission on a sale. I'm not a case to be managed. I'm not the next in line. I'm not a double decaf mocha latte or a 20-year term life. I am not a number. I'm a person, and I demand your respect. But if you treat me like a number, then a number's what you'll get. You see, a number can't stay loyal. If there comes a better deal, a number knows no allegiance because a number cannot feel. Be kind to me, and I'll open my heart. Invite me in. And I'll eagerly take part. Recognize my significance. Celebrate my individuality. Don't treat me like a number, and you'll have my loyalty. Thank you.